So I watched the Apple event last night, and as always, I was blown away by all the new features. But more than ever, I particularly thought there were so many features there that could benefit autistic people. Hi, I'm Connor. I'm an autistic consultant and trainer who is an Apple fanboy and has worked and does work on various tech things. Therefore, I feel I have some authority to talk about this. So I've made a list of 10 things in which the new Apple features can benefit autistic people. Let's just get straight into it. Number one, writing tools. I find that the biggest challenge I encounter day to day in my working professional life is emails. I really struggle with emails. I find it very overwhelming, A, to interpret emails, but B, to come up with responses that aren't essays long, because I like to add in as much details as possible so there's little room as possible for misinterpretation. With the new writing tools that Apple provides, this should make it really easy for me to be able to quickly give responses to people whilst me feeling that I've covered everything that I need to. The ability to proofread, the ability to make things more concise, to rewrite in several different ways, to change the tone. All of these, at the touch of a button, are what's going to be the revolutionary thing. Now, I know that these kind of tools have existed in other platforms for a while, but by integrating it this deep into an operating system that I use daily is really going to make a difference for me. Now, the next feature isn't one that I think will benefit me. Well, it will benefit me inadvertently, but it's one that I need other people to use. Now, voice isolation has existed on the other Apple platforms for a little while now. Quite simply, it uses artificial intelligence to mitigate any background noise that's going on so that you can focus on just the person speaking. Now, I really struggle when I am having a phone call with someone and all I'm getting is a load of background noise. It's really hard for me to process that information. It's a very intense amount of audio information going in. So to build that audio isolation directly into people's AirPods, that's going to make all the difference. I think it's going to make remote working a lot more fun. Like, I am in the position where I travel around a lot. I don't necessarily get the luxury of being in my home all the time where I can control everything. So for those moments where I do have to work in a coffee shop, or when others have to do so, I hope they will make that slight improvement. The next thing that excited me was the new focus mode that they're introducing, called Reduce Interruptions. Now, I use my focus modes quite a lot because it really helps me to go, I'm working, I'm in this mindset, I don't want interruptions from these people, and that's that. Now, that's all well and good, but like when there's people like your mum, I don't want to have my mum completely not able to contact me. I want her to be able to get through in events of emergency or if there's anything important. Therefore, I leave her on those current focus modes so that she can always get through. In reality, she just ends up sending me stuff from social media that ends up distracting me. Now, I don't want my mum to change how she interacts with me, so this focus mode looks like it should do that filtering for me, because I really do get impacted by working on one thing, having an interruption happen, and then struggling to get back into it, as many autistic people do. That whole task switching thing is really hard, so anything like this can make it that little bit easier, then great, let's enjoy it. The next is smart replies. Again, I don't think this one is particularly revolutionary, it's just more exciting that it's integrated into the Apple ecosystem. I can get very overwhelmed. I get to the end of the day, and therefore even just responding to someone's message is quite a demand. So the fact that artificial intelligence, or Apple intelligence as we should say, can just mitigate that and jump in, suggest me some replies, and therefore all I've got to do is press the screen, great. That makes things a lot easier for me. I fluctuate. I do have states where I can't talk, and therefore, you know, anything that can help provide you a voice in those moments is really useful. The next one's a bit more technical, and I don't think it's one that's particularly beneficial for me, although maybe it does fall into me in that use case that I've just described, about in that kind of more closed down, shut down state. Image generation, including Genmoji. Now, there is a communication system that exists in the industry called PEX, Picture Exchange Communication System, or Pictorial. I can never remember which one, doesn't matter. And on the whole, we do find autistic people generally prefer to communicate using visuals for certain content. I must insert that caveat because it's about communicating the most appropriate form that leaves the least amount of room for miscommunication. I wonder how this image generation technology, as it integrates more into our everyday lives, if that will become a new realm for this kind of picture exchange communication. Because can people press a few prompts to come up with an image to communicate something better? I don't know the exact answer because I don't know exactly how it works, but I think there's something there, and I'm intrigued to see how how it ends up working into our everyday lives. Personal context. Now, this is one that's really hard to think about without seeing it and feeling it and experiencing it. But what I can say is that we do know generally when an autistic person communicates with a non-autistic person, or sometimes other autistic people, there can be a mismatch in context. Can probably apply that to any two humans. However, we know it's particularly noticeable in those interactions. Therefore, I wonder if what Apple are explaining with personal context, if that can help enhance those interactions, meaning that there is less of a disconnect. That sounds quite abstract. It's because this is quite abstract. As with all of these things, I'm not explaining what they are, because if you want to know what they are, go and look into how Apple explain it. It will be more useful. But I just think by tapping into a lot of the details, I think it could be really useful. Now, summary and highlights built into Safari, and I think it's also built into notes and all those things as well. But generally what I mean is a lot of information is overwhelming. Therefore, to slim it down into a summarizable state where you take away the key takeaways, I can only see that as beneficial. I can only see my deep dives into information becoming even more deep diving just because I'm able to then consume that much more. And alongside that, with the highlights that Apple have shown, I think this is a more visual way to take apart the key pieces of information, and therefore, more flexibility of information just forms into general best practice. Number 8, I don't think I've been saying the numbers. Messages, expressions. Now, again, on that form of not necessarily knowing if you're getting the tone right, etc., especially in short form communication in text, it's very quick. There's a very fast pace to it. Therefore, to get the tone right is even more of a pressurized task. Otherwise, things can sometimes spiral, and that's never fun. So the more flexibility that's provided to be able to put into trying to express the nuances of what you're trying to say, I think could make a difference. Just making certain words flutter or be bold, underlined, etc. I think all those kind of things are going to be quite useful. How useful they are in practice, I will be intrigued to see, just because, it is a quick exchange of communication. Mail categorization. Now, looping back round for my penultimate one, I'm coming back to mail. I get a lot of emails, and it's a lot. It's very overwhelming. Therefore, anything to help me get through them and prioritize them and know what is the most important thing. That prioritization extends out of mail, by the way. It's just more exciting in mail for me, because you can have messages prioritized and stuff like that. Anyway, distraction. The general prioritization. I just see me becoming more efficient. I personally feel my weakest method of communicating is via written message. Written text. Like, if I have a Teams call with someone, I feel I have a really successful interaction. I feel I'm able to represent myself a lot better in that way and what I'm trying to put across. Hence why I probably like this whole filming thing. And the overwhelm that I get in digesting the information delays my responses and therefore makes me look not as good as I should be. Great English there. Just after I was saying I was good at communicating like this. Look, I'm filming this at 8 o'clock in the morning ahead of a busy day. I've got a show to run at the end of the week. Now for the last feature, vitals. I'm a massive Apple Watch user. I've had an Apple Watch since early days, and there has not been a day where I have not worn it, I don't think. I love my Apple Watch as an interoceptive device, quite simply. So interoception, understanding the things going on within our body, and externally as well. I actually have the sound level widget there, so when it gets too loud, I put in earplugs, etc. It's so useful for me to have, like my reminders go off about food and the heart rate notification. So when my heart rate gets too high, I know that is a sign of me being too anxious. Therefore, I do things to mitigate it. One thing I am really rubbish at understanding and navigating is when I'm ill. And that is something that this Vitals app looks to be able to help with. So it combines all the information around sleep, heart rate, blood oxygen, I can't remember what else, there was quite a list of them, but it combines all that information to be able to compare to your normal rhythm. And therefore it can say, you're clearly not feeling too well. And that will be really helpful for me to know when to intervene. This is one that I've left to last because I think it's the most exciting, but I feel I know the least about, and I can't wait to have a play with it. That brings us to the end of the list. As with all of this stuff, I think it's great to see this kind of technology going into the mainstream, because whilst it's being designed for whatever reason, it does end up having benefits that level the playing field for neurodivergent people. And whilst I've made that point, actually, I've made this list for autistic people. I've seen many other things announced yesterday that are applicable for other neurotypes, and I could go into that, however I'm not going to. I probably missed some for autistic people. I've tried to keep it at 10. Please let me know down in the comments whether it's just for autistic people or wider neurodivergent use. This is exciting, and I get really excited by tech, and maybe I'm just making this video so that I can potentially justify buying the Vision Pro. I don't know. Shall I do it? Also, leave your thoughts on that in the Vision Pro. In the comments below. It's clearly very much on my mind. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Bye.